I got my first client in June of 1998. I remember the person specifically, his name was Philip. And the check for that first fee was $279. And the reason I ended up working with Philip and the reason why it was such a good fit for both of us is I had this belief before I made my first dollar in showing people the right way to grow money that people were actually spending way too much time focusing on growing their money and not enough on actually creating more money, literally like creating more through their income. If they worked for themselves, which Philip did, still does, focusing more on how can I generate more through sales and generate more revenue and generate more income, and then also know how to grow that. And what I found with people who run their own businesses or consultants or coaches or business owners is sometimes they put too much effort and time and energy into, the right way of growing their money. And so I started Fearless Wealth to show people, hey, this is the right way to grow money. And now you don't need to spend all that time and attention on it. And you can focus more time on growing your business or playing soccer with your kids or hanging out with your wife, your husband, your partner. And it was this idea that in order to do that, there had to be a simple way to signal to someone when to be in, when to be out, when to do something, what not to do something. And with a lot of noise this week, there's a lot of noise in the market this week. I thought this was a great time to bring up this whole idea about just how humans interact with price movements. Hey everybody, this is RC Peck, and this is my weekend podcast. And the theme for this weekend is the dollar shock of 2014 and other fun things about humans. So I just love that title, the dollar shock of 2014. I did not make that up. I saw that in an email. But we have problems. Us humans have problems separating the signal from the noise. And so much noise can create so much anxiety and stress in our lives that I wanted to figure out what was the signal that could eliminate all this noise that we could just focus on. And so this is a good time to talk about that. And I'm going to go with this theme called the dollar shock of 2014. And if you look at the screen here, hey, you can tell that some stuff is going down from July 2nd to the 25th of September. So we have all of July, all of August, and pretty much all of September. So let's call it 3 months. So in that 3-month period, the US dollar has gone up almost about 7%, and US treasuries have gone up almost about, or a little over 5%. And then you got the S&P down, you got energy stocks down, you got agricultural stocks down almost 16%, you got precious metals down almost 10%, livestock down almost 8%, industrial metals almost down 4%. And so it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I got to do something. The dollar's going up. The dollar's not supposed to go up. How can the dollar go up? How can the dollar go up after printing $3 trillion and running $1 billion deficits in the government? Well, the thing is, it is going up right now. And Europe is printing and going to start printing more money. Europe has to crush their currency. When this whole thing started with Mario Draghi coming out saying, look, it's time, we're going to make this happen. We're going to create some inflation in Europe. The euro was at costing about $1.37 US. And now it's below $1.25. Now, I think ultimately it's going to $1, 1-to-1 parity, but it's going to take some time. And so, we have the dollar shock, and this is just so hypey. Like, there's so much hype in that, and there's so much fear in that. Like, oh my gosh, what should I do? What happens if the dollar keeps going up, and where should I put my money? It just loads up all this anxiety and stress. And then on top of that, you start getting people talking about the market's crashing. And look at this screen here. Doesn't this price chart just look scary? And what this price chart is showing is literally mid-cap stocks compared to large cap stocks, which is the blue line. If you look at the blue line on the screen, I purposely made this screen really complicated and confusing looking. But if you look at the blue squiggly line, you can see that when I highlight it up here in the upper right, mid-cap stocks are falling faster than large cap stocks. And so the conventional wisdom is mid-caps fall first before large cap because people take their money out of mid caps before they take their money out of large caps. Okay. And then the red line on this screen is comparing small cap stocks with the S&P 500 or with large cap stocks. And as you can see with the red line falling precipitously, which has actually been falling for almost all of 2014, that people are getting out of small cap stocks much faster than large cap stocks. So then right away, all the sirens go off and all the hype goes out there and all the noise goes out there that the market's crashing, small cap stocks are crashing, mid cap stocks are crashing, and it just loads up all this anxiety. I mean, even that phrase, the dollar shock of 2014. It's really hypey. Like it works for me too. I'm a human. My brain works off this stuff. I'm like, wait, what do you mean the dollar shock? What's getting shocked? What's being shocked because the dollar's going up? Like it's a great title, but it's all noise. And when I say it's all noise, I mean you want a signal that can eliminate the noise. That's what you want. That's what people are looking for. And when they have that, then they can find the right way to grow their money. And then they can put all of that time and attention back on what they really do, whether it's growing their business or their consultancy company, or just spending more time with their partner or their wife or their husband or their kids or their grandkids, or just giving back to their community or their cause. But you don't actually need to put that much actual effort once you have kind of the right way to grow your money. So there's a lot of noise going on. Now look at this. I built one of those signals that eliminates the noise. And if you look at this screen, this is the S&P 500. And what you see here is open, high, low bars for the S&P. And you see a green squiggly line, and you see a red, slightly less squiggly line, and you see a black horizontal line. So that green line, I don't even think about the market correcting. This is one of the first signals I have, and I have two signals, but I don't even think about the market correcting or concerns or anything until that green line gets below that red line. Now, when it does go below that red line, I just call that yellow light mode. It's time to be cautious now. It's time to pay a little bit more attention. We're not even in yellow light mode. And when we were back in August, that wasn't get out, run for the hills. It's just like, oh, okay, hey, we're in yellow light mode. Let's just make note that, we need to watch things a little closer. And when we go into yellow light mode, what I do is I just look for major supports or major resistances. So this black horizontal line is S&P 1900. So this is the 1900 mark on the S&P 500. And when we had this correction back at the end of July, beginning of August, I was like, oh, well, it looks like it's going into yellow light mode. All right, just be aware there's a signal there. And then we have to see what happens with this 1900 point line. And it came close, but nothing really happened. And so what you want is to get a signal that eliminates the noise, because there's so much noise out there. And market probability, which is a strategy I designed in the 90s, does that for you. It gives you the signal or signals that can eliminate all the noise, so you can actually focus on what you really want to focus on in life. Now, talking about noise and other human behaviors, something interesting was announced this morning. A guy by the name of Bill Gross is leaving PIMCO, which is pretty big because he's been there pretty much forever. Bill Gross, in his 60s, or maybe even early 70s, he's going over to Janus Funds. So PIMCO has a bunch of closed-end funds. And on the screen here is one of the closed-end funds. They have PFL. Now, this fund is actually what's called a floating rate fund. So when rates start to go up, or when people think interest rates are going to start going up, this fund will be able to adjust what it owns to that increase in rates. So this is a fund that people own if they're worried about being hurt when interest rates go up. And the Fed has pretty much said, hey, in 2014, we will start increasing interest rates. Now, what they don't say, and what I think I am hearing, is we're going to slowly increase interest rates. And the reason we're doing that is because the economy is strong enough that it can handle that. That's actually good news. They're not saying interest rates are going to 10%. They're not saying hyperinflation. They're just simply saying, hey, you know what? Things are going so well in this country, we're going to start raising interest rates. So a floating rate fund like this is a great thing to be in for people who want a yield. Well, gets announced Bill Gross is leaving PIMCO, going over to Janus, and guess what happens to all the closed-end funds at PIMCO? They all absolutely open lower like PFL did. To me, this is an absolute noise type of event, which if you've heard any of my stuff for any amount of time, you know that we like the noise. We take advantage of the noise. I talked about this in my latest webinar, which you should have gotten a link to, where I actually give a real-time live example of a company that has 58,000 employees, does $13 billion in annual sales, has a market cap of $14 billion, and has corrected 43%, just like Apple did. I call it, it's doing an Apple. And Apple then went up 85% after that 43% silliness from all that noise. And this is all that PFL is doing here. And what happened was there was a premium that people were willing to pay for these closed-end funds at PIMCO. And all that happened was the premium was taken off. But what you end up with right now today, literally, as I talk to you, is a floating rate fund that's paying over an 8% yield that is trending up as the concern of higher interest rates goes up with it. So this is the noise that I'm talking about that you either want to eliminate or actually leverage and take advantage of. And in this case, PFL, you take advantage of it. And with the S&P and mid-cap and the dollar shock of 2014, you can actually eliminate the silliness of it and look for opportunities. I mean, that's the whole thing behind Fearless Wealth and looking for those cycles, is that there are these cycles in investing. And for people who want to grow their money the right way, you just look for the cycles, you just wait, you put your hook in the water and you just wait, and they come by. And here's one of those examples that is happening today. Hey guys, really the takeaway this week is that you want to follow a signal that can eliminate the noise. And rather than getting scared and freaked out and anxious and having anxiety attacks about all this noise, this is where the money is made. You know, getting into a PFL or buying Apple when it falls 43% or Intel when it falls 33%. Or Berkshire Hathaway when it fell 25%. It happens to so many companies: Wells Fargo, Disney, Chipotle, Netflix, Philip Morris, Walgreens. These are companies that dominate their sector, dominate their industry. You take advantage of the noise. So you can not only eliminate it by a signal, but you can also take advantage by having a system, a methodology that shows you how to grow your money the right way. Hey guys, this is just another step towards your freedom with money, your future, and your life. Until next time, this is RC Peck.